So now we know how to put images and text and even pop-ups and videos onto a screen, but we still haven't asked a question. So let's figure out how to do that next. So let me first again add a new screen, and we'll call this screen Asking a Question. To ask a question, we again can use the insert tool, but this time we use some of the basic inputs that are available in the screen, including multiple choice questions, drop down questions, text where we get the student to respond in a single line of text, number, they add a number or a date, or multi-line, they can write free-form text as in a short answer, and finally true false. Let's start with a simple thing, which is multiple choice, and we click the widget for multiple choice and it creates this little screen here, which is by default 3 options in a multiple choice question. First off though, let's ask the question, what is the world's largest island? So this dialog here gives us 3 choices. We can add an option, we can have as many as we like, or we can delete options. Let's just stick with 3. And let's say Fiji, New Zealand, Australia. That's how the question appears. If I preview that, question is there. I can click one of them, but nothing will happen because I haven't told the system which one is right. So that's the next step. Before I get there, return back to editing and point out a couple of other things. This dialog box is an MCQ and it's been given a default name MCQ, but it's very important to give your items that you put on the screen a proper name. I'm going to call it largest island because this name will reappear when you look at student responses, and if it just says MCQ1, MCQ2, you won't really know what they're responding to. So I've called it largest island. You can also see that you can have multiple selections if there were, but obviously there's only one right here, so I'm not going to untick that. You can randomize the options in order. You can have vertical layout or horizontal layout as you need. The next thing to figure out is how does the system know when the student is right, and that is done through this adaptivity panel down here. It's stretchable. If you've got lots of things in there, you can make it bigger or smaller, but we've got plenty of room here. And as the name implies, the correct state is the right choice. And how do we say that Australia is the right choice? We choose a condition. There's lots of different conditions that you can use on the platform, but here we're talking about what the student is doing on this screen, the current condition. If I click that, and click inside this box, you'll see that the name I gave that multiple choice selected panel, MCQ largest island, appears with the little MCQ icon. If I click on that, it tells me that I can choose a whole range of things about that MCQ largest island panel. I can choose the number of choices the students made, what choice they chose in terms of numbers, and I should explain by default they go 1, 2, 3, starting 1 at the top and down. So if I go selected choice is 3, then that is the right answer. That means that if the students gets that right, then something will happen. What will happen? That's the action. If this state occurs, the action will happen and it will say finish the lesson. I'm going to give the students some feedback, which is in this dialog. Instead of finishing the lesson, because I don't want to, I'm just going to say just return to the same screen we're on now, the Asking a Question screen. So let's see how that works in practice. I'll save it, preview it. Student says Australia. When they click the next button, that's when the adaptivity panel comes into play and their response is analysed. because their response matched the correct answer, it says great work, and when I click next they just go back to where they were before. What would have happened if they got it wrong? Click next, it says incorrect, please try again. Where did that come from? Let's have a look. Now, probably a really important thing to understand about the way the whole platform works is that what's happening here is that every time you click the next button, a series of logical steps are taking place, and they start at the top and they work down. At the start, the first thing they check is, were they correct? And if they ticked Australia, number 3, they would be correct. If they chose something else, they would be wrong. And so this does not hold. The logic of the system continues on down, falling through these whatever states you put in here until it gets to the very bottom one, the default state. And if I click on the default state, you can see the action is incorrect, please try again. So that's where the feedback came from when they were wrong. Supposing though I wanted to tell them, if they chose New Zealand, I want to tell them it's actually 2 large islands. Kiwis think there's 3, but let's not go there. We can use trap states to identify what the student's done. So I'm going to identify a trap state where they chose New Zealand. This is a label I'm using. Again, it doesn't matter, but it helps me understand what the students did. What I'm looking for is current action when in the MCQ island they selected choice was 2. And in that case, I'm going to give them some different feedback. That's my feedback. You notice that this trap state is wrong. It's selected as marked as incorrect. I could make it correct. Let's not confuse ourselves for the moment. Let's just say it's incorrect. And generally, an incorrect response, nothing much will happen. They will just stay on the same screen and they'll keep going away until they get it wrong. I can add other actions, but I won't for the moment. So when we preview that, a student who chooses New Zealand gets that response. Fiji, they're still going through the default trap state. Australia, great work. There are countless numbers of trap states you can add. That might be about what the student did. It might be the number of times the students attempted the lesson. It might be how long a student has looked at a video for. All sorts of things you can control here. That's a lesson for another day. But this is creating some simple trap states which allow you to ask questions and respond to the student.